Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. Colt Milton is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out his first appearance on Boundless Body Radio on episode 504. Colt Milton is a carnivore bodybuilder, competition prep coach, and podcast host. After Colt and his wife Taylor lost their corporate jobs during the COVID pandemic of 2020, they launched supersetyourlife.com, a movement dedicated to health first aesthetics and total body optimization. They have also launched their company, Skull Bells, which creates skull-themed gym equipment. They co-host the supersetyourlife.com podcast, where I was honored to be hosted on episode 169 of their show. On their podcast, Colt and Taylor discuss, debate, rant, and interview featured guests on developing a healthy, purpose-filled lifestyle. Their favorite topics include health and fitness, marriage, parenting, personal growth, overcoming challenges, along with other subjects requested by clients in their community, and much more. Colt also co-hosts the Carnivore Coach's Corner with our mutual friend and former Boundless Body Radio podcast guest, Jonathan Griffiths. You can find Colt on Instagram at Colt Milton or on his website, www.supersetyourlife.com. Colt Milton, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio, my friend.
Oh, thank you so very much. It's an honor to be back. Pleasure
It
to
is
be
so
here. Thank you for having me on.
So great to have you, dude. Have you been dangling, sniping, and selling these days?
Dangling, yes. Selling, yes. Sniping. I hit a post at my last hockey tournament. Was that close enough?
That's pretty close. Not bad.
I played defense. Give me a break, pal.
Not going to get a lot of goals, but hopefully you're getting some good assists out there. Kind of what we do as defensemen, just try to set everybody else up.
Yeah, that, and I just beat everybody up that gets too close to the goalie.
Perfect. That's fantastic. We talked a little bit about hockey last time, and I do want to talk a little bit more about it. We'll get to that in a second. But before we get to some of the physical aspect of hockey, I did want to ask you about a tournament that you recently played in. You played in an outdoor tournament, which I've always wanted to do. How was it?
Bro, outdoor hockey is one of the most euphoric feelings that you can possibly experience as an athlete. It is so much fun, man. I mean, playing hockey in an indoor rink, yeah, but playing when it's outside, when it's cold, it's way colder than you want it to be. It's way colder than it is in like an actual hockey rink for the most part, right? I mean, usually, you got weather conditions like the wind. You know, like you're just not used to really playing hockey with wind when you're indoors. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. You know, nothing super competitive. We got second place.
Nice.
But most everybody on the team was not sober the entire weekend.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. About right. It was in Lewistown, Montana, of all places too. Just like basically right smack dab in the middle of the state. It's funny. I've played hockey in every single rink in the state multiple times, like all throughout my childhood and through college. And yeah, just a rink that I'd never played on before. It was a blast from the past. I've played in several outdoor hockey tournaments actually in Idaho, but this one was probably the most fun, man. It really was. It was just a blast. Just a lot of good guys.
Good for you, dude.
It was the first time that my brothers and I had ever actually played on the same team before, because we were always in different. Yeah, we were always in different age groups growing up. So being able to be on the same line with both my brothers, like we were basically like the Hanson brothers.
That's phenomenal. I love that. Oh man. Well, that's fantastic. How was it to perform at a level that you wanted to perform at while also eating a carnivore diet?
I wouldn't have done it any other way. Like, I didn't want to sacrifice my performance, so why would I stop doing what has been working so well for me as a bodybuilder and so well for me as a business owner? I mean, the carnivore diet. I'm on day 3 of the lion diet right now. I'll do the lion diet, and then I'll reintroduce some specific ketogenic performance foods like keto bricks first and foremost. It's actually the last thing that I ate before starting the lion diet, and the first thing that I'm going to eat as soon as the lion diet's over. And so, yeah, I pack those with me, and so those are great for like snacking between games. And then right before bed, it's just the same thing, rest and digest mode, right? And so I'll have like a couple pounds of meat. Grand total for the end of the day was anywhere from 200 to 250 grams of protein. I was lean bulking at the time, and so I don't get super meticulous on my macros. I tend to go more by satiety on my bulks, and then I start having to set to specific protein and fat ratios when I cut. So it was a couple weeks towards the end of my bulk. I did get 2 injuries playing, actually. I tore my hamstring running with my dog earlier right before that, so I was already kind of going into into the game a little bit into the weekend a little bit wounded. But first shift, I actually tore my groin, my hip
Oh no.
adductor, because yeah, I've been going beast mode on split squats. I've been going beast mode on the hip adductor machine at the gym, and I've actually been intentionally trying to grow that muscle, and I've been growing my groin because as a classic physique bodybuilder right now, I'm about 6 months away from my next show, but my entire goal with my physique has been to close the gap between my legs, because that contributes to more of your X frame, right? Which is a broad upper body, a narrow waist, and then bigger legs. You can only make your waist so small by diet and conditioning and by training abs. And so you get to a point to where you're like, okay, what are all the muscles that make my waist smaller by appearance? And when you think of leg training, everybody knows quads, everybody knows hamstrings. Yeah, okay, but people forget about the adductors, the inner groin muscle, and that's really important for men and women, in my opinion, for a complete physique.
Very interesting. My wife taught me about the game hot dogs or legs on social media, where you take a picture of your legs and try to tell whether they're hot dogs or legs. And it sounds like if you're bulking up that much, we'll very much be able to tell that you have legs and not hot dogs.
I love it.
Okay, so I really wanted to ask you about this. We're going to park the lion diet thing for a second. We breezed over that last time, and I want to make sure we talk about that because I think that's important. But as far as fitness goes,
Mhm.
especially related to a carnivore diet, we're talking about completely different types of exercise. Hockey, I don't think can be much
Yeah,
more different than competition prep for bodybuilding. And I don't think that can be much different than what I do on my bike cycling or what you say you're doing with like running with your dog. Like those are different energy systems, they're different sports, different requirements.
mhm.
One is long and steady, one is a short burst of energy for a minute, or some of my buddies it's like 6 or 7 minutes and not much of a burst and they just stay and skate around way too much,
Yeah.
versus like bodybuilding, which is aesthetic. It's a totally different thing. And so I'm just curious, what about this diet do you think can optimize all of those things? Because that has certainly been my experience. You would think like most diets would only be suited for one thing, and a different diet for a different thing, and a different diet for a different thing. And it just doesn't seem like that's the case. What do you think it is about the carnivore diet that allows you to somewhat optimize for each one of those?
Yeah, simply put, it's a proper human diet. It's how we're supposed to be eating. How are we the only species on planet Earth that doesn't know what we're supposed to eat and what we're not supposed to eat? And like, if you need a calculator, or if you need a nutrition label or a plan to tell you what to eat, then you're probably eating the wrong food. It's not rocket science. If you're a competitive athlete, okay, now we need to start tracking things, and now we need to be a little bit more intentional. For overall health and to be a functional human being that is halfway decent in all those things that you just described, your answer is meat. Your answer is not sugar. It's not carbohydrates. There's certain people that are more sensitive to those foods than other people. I believe that I'm one of those. People that are autistic, for example, my son's autistic, and so whenever he has sugar, whenever he has something that's a highly processed food, red dye number 40 is probably the worst. That and we just had this entire conversation on on your channel, or excuse me, on we're on your channel now. We had this entire conversation on my channel about polyunsaturated fats and how horrible those are for your body. And so and so the carnivore diet really is just a proper human diet that I think that everybody would benefit from the more closer they get towards it. Now, I'm going to be speaking in front of sixth graders and seventh graders next week, right? And so I'm teaching a seminar on heart health. Now, I'm not going to tell everybody to get on the carnivore diet. Like, that's not realistic. Are you kidding me? These are sixth and seventh graders, and they're eating what the school feeds them and what their parents feed them. And so my entire goal is just to get them one step closer. All right, like, look at your polyunsaturated fats and look at all the food that you're eating that has highly processed sugar in it, or that has highly refined seed oils in it. Okay, think of one food that you can live without and find a healthy alternative. Like, that's going to get you on the road to a healthier heart. That's going to get you on the road to excelling in whatever sport it is. And I don't even care what it is, especially bodybuilders. Man, you do not see people go keto and do shows as a carnivore bodybuilder, as a keto bodybuilder, and then go back to a standard American diet. You just don't see it. Most bodybuilders that I know, first of all, aren't natural, and so that changes everything when you throw steroids into it. So I can only speak as a natural bodybuilder, but for bodybuilding in particular, when you remove carbohydrates from your diet, man, that is the one macronutrient that your body doesn't need. It's very, very highly addictive. You're now in tune with your satiety signals. You're eating all the fats that you need to keep your natural testosterone levels high as long as you can throughout your entire contest prep. And there'll be a time where if you're natural, that just the closer you get to your show, like, yeah, your testosterone is probably going to tank at some point. But as soon as you start reintroducing those fats and those proteins back in, then that's usually a month or two process to recover from some of that damage. But yeah, in terms of other sports, I mean, like I run a 10 or 11K. It's funny, we just talked on my show about how running is just like that type of cardiovascular exercise where you're out of ideas. You're like, I don't know, go for a run. That's good for you, right? But I actually really enjoy running. I find it very meditative. And so it's always for an hour straight whenever I do it. And then I try to add an extra kilometer if I can. I'm sick right now, and so instead of doing a 10K, I just ran a 9K. I wanted to scale back a little bit, but those are actually where I have some of the deepest prayer moments, some of the deepest visualization moments. It's just me and my dog, and if my dog's not with me, it's not the same at all. But
Yeah.
here again, like I would never think about having carbs before a run. Like that would ruin my run. The best part about my run is when I hit the runner's high halfway through and I can feel myself getting really deep into ketosis. And man, some of the thoughts that I have and just the peace of mind that I feel throughout my entire body, I really believe that I need that once a week. And if it goes too long without going for a run like that, then I start getting antsy and looking for an excuse to go do it.
Well, that's amazing that when you're sick, instead of doing 10 kilometers, you do 9 kilometers. I think most people would do 0 kilometers and probably stay on 0 kilometers for a lot longer than they really wanted. When I was on
Yeah.
your show recently, you asked me for some book recommendations around fitness. And I named one that I still really love called Go Wild. And in that book, they give the example of running in particular. And the example is like you go to the gym, you get on a treadmill, you're running and kind of plodding along at the exact same speed. Typically, that's where all the televisions are, is in front of the cardio section, and the channels that are on at 5 in the morning when you go to run are usually not the most positive, uplifting channels. It's how the stock market is tanking, how there was a recent shooting somewhere. This is breaking news, political
Yeah.
garbage nonsense. Like not really probably the best for mental health. And yeah, you're moving, which is great, but not ideal. And it contrasts that with running out in the wilderness on a trail on uneven surfaces, and the colors and information and wind and proprioception, all this stuff that you're gathering as you're running along. Ideally I would contend with like the maximal contact with the ground. If you can do minimal shoes or even barefoot, even better.
Yep.
And one of the things that it talks about as far as that being so much better for the brain and collecting all that information is running with a dog. If you can run with a dog, it's even
No kidding.
another level. Absolutely, because it's like you're
Wow.
cooperating, you're working with a species that we have basically evolved through selective evolution.
Yeah.
Dogs did not exist 20, 30,000 years ago, but it specifically talks about having a dog to run with. So I think that's very interesting that you came to that same conclusion and you said like, yeah, I can run, but if it's not my dog, it's not the same. Very interesting.
Oh, not the same at all. Actually, one of the loneliest runs that I've been in my life was when I trained Nate, the guy that I was talking about that didn't do a step of cardio his entire prep. So he flew me out to be backstage with him and to coach him through this competition, the INBF Granite State Open. So it was in New Hampshire, and so I flew to West Virginia. We drove up there. I was actually on the lion diet, and he was on the lion diet at the time too. And yeah, I didn't have my dog with me, because I'm in Virginia, and so I was like, all right, this is the day that I normally go for a run. And yeah, man, it was lonely. It was not the same. Like I'm still glad that I did it, but I missed her. I really did. I'm not gonna lie. She's a pretty
Yeah.
cool dog.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting that you brought that up in conjunction with that. I've joined a gym recently that I use to train people in the wintertime. If we were doing like outside workouts on like a tree or in a park, whatever, I joined this gym. Amazing facility, dude. Next time you're in Salt Lake City, you have to check this place out. It's called the Refinery. The owners are just a couple. There's no employees. They don't check your card at the
Okay,
front.
you and I are going there together, and then we're getting
Dude,
ribeyes afterward.
this guy John, John and Jess is their name. John has been collecting machines and curating machines for years and years and years. There are machines in this facility that don't they're like the only machine like of its kind in the entire state. He's got like what looks like a 50-year-old Nautilus pullover machine with
Yeah.
chains that looks like it's like 50 years old. Dude, it's amazing. A lot of like multi-loaded ways to like enhance different areas of the lift and all the machines with cams and everything. It's a
Oh, I'm gonna
fantastic
go there.
facility. Oh, I can't say enough about it. And because of that, it does attract a lot of the bodybuilding community. So it's been interesting to be there with some of these bodybuilders. And I've been actually a little bit surprised following some of them on social media, how they have been really open about PED use, performance enhancing drug use, and how to do it in a safe way. I know that's not the route you take, and I certainly don't judge anybody who does, but where do you stand on like the safety and effectiveness of doing some of those things?
Oh, performance enhancing drugs in particular.
Yeah. I'm just always curious about it. Like one of the guys was talking about like not
Yeah,
only testosterone but also like taking insulin. You know what I mean?
right. I think of all the above, insulin for sure is the sketchiest out of all of them. To my nobody knows why bodybuilders are dying young. It could be a number of like, you know, 20 different things they might be taking. Insulin, I think, is at the top of the list. Yeah, I train mostly natural bodybuilders. I have trained some athletes that are on gear. One thing I will say about training athletes on gear, it's a lot of fun, man. It is cool when somebody comes back a month later and they got 10 pounds more muscle and they got 5 pounds less fat. I'm like, how
Wow.
is this remotely possible? Like, it's just flat out entertaining, first of all. Um, but yeah, generally speaking, I mean, I'm natural. Most of who I train is natural. I train professional bodybuilders, and they all look spectacular. I don't think that they need any performance enhancing drugs to look any better. Certainly not to perform any better. And that's about as much as I ever talk about PEDs. Sorry, I hope that you weren't looking for like a really exciting answer.
No. If I did, I would interview some of them. It's not something that I would do either. Just always
Yeah.
something that's like curious. I guess in your experience, would I be right in thinking that if I ever did, which again I'm not going to, but if I ever did, I would be probably better off going to a bodybuilder who's been doing this for a very very long time versus going to a doctor who might not know as much about it as some of these people who are like really working with this stuff on the ground and figuring this stuff out.
Very much so.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
there's a stigma around bodybuilding, and I always just say whenever people bring it up, I just like, do you know who figured out body composition before everybody else did? Like bodybuilders did. Like, do you
Yeah.
know who figured out like protein intakes before everybody else did? It was bodybuilders. Like, you guys were on the carnivore diet before anybody knew what the hell a carnivore diet was. Like,
I know.
you guys are so smart and technical, and like when you're standing on stage and you need a certain part of your tricep fiber to flare at a certain angle. You guys know exactly the lift, exactly the grip, exactly how to do it. I think it's
Right.
fascinating. It's not something I'm into, but it's not something that people should have that kind of stigma around, you know?
Right. And on the PEDs too, I think that you just need to ask yourself what's important to you and why are you doing it. Okay, if you're going into professional bodybuilding and you're making your living as a professional bodybuilder, I don't know, maybe you could make it a halfway decent argument that it's worth it. But for me personally, I don't want to have a great physique and look incredible and then look halfway decent for a year and then and go back and forth. And I think, I mean, nutrition is complicated enough. Why do you got to put drugs into it too? Like you don't even need supplements, let alone performance enhancing drugs to have a decent physique. I think I have a decent physique right now, and I'm consuming no supplements, like not even performance enhancing drugs, but no supplements, no creatine, no pump formula, nothing, no pre workout, water, salt, go to the gym. That's it. That's all my body needs. After I get off the lion diet again, I'm probably going to reintroduce trans-allyl-glutamine, not L-glutamine, but it's a type of glutamine that's more bioavailable that doesn't break the fast, and so you can have it towards the end of your workout, and you can stay deep in ketosis. So I'll probably reintroduce that, keto bricks, and then maybe some citrulline malate if I'm having a hard time getting a pump. And if my protein gets really, really low, maybe I can start. Maybe I should put in creatine. But other than that, no. And then so I don't know, for performance enhancing drugs, it's like, is that really going to give you a look that's sustainable, that's glorifying to God, and something that you're proud of like all day, every day, the rest of your life? No, probably not. So why not just get realistic and go, okay, as a natural bodybuilder, I can expect to put on muscle at this rate. I can expect to be competitive enough to win a pro card at this date, right? And so my next competition is going to be about 3 years from now, and I know that I would be more competitive and I could speed it up a bit quicker if I use performance enhancing drugs, but my family's not ready for that. I got other places I got to be spending my money, man. Those drugs are all expensive, probably. I don't know how much they are, but they can't be cheap. And so this summer I'm guest posing at the Open Natural, which is going to be a drug tested show. And so obviously I'm not taking anything going into that. And then the shows that I do after this are probably just going to be natural shows the rest of my life too. I've done some tested and some non-tested shows. The non-tested shows are actually kind of fun. They present a different challenge because I'm up against guys that are bigger, but I can outcondition them quite easily with the carnivore diet and being natural. If you're on
Yeah.
steroids, that's kind of the biggest deadest giveaway is just that they retain water most of the time.
Mm. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your opinion on that. A huge shout out to Robert and Crystal Sykes, who make the Keto Brick. Good friends of mine. I've been able to meet and interview them.
Yep.
They're amazing. And
Also natural
shout out,
bodybuilders.
exactly. Shout out to Robert, who like has doing natural bodybuilding on a ketogenic diet and is
Yep.
really open and honest about it. And he shares his journey, and I really appreciated it. But you also get the appreciation of like most people will do these shows and then they balloon. They go up 50 pounds and they need to
Yep.
get all that weight off again. Where I watch the two of you and your deviations are not that big. Like if you're not doing competition, yeah, you
That's
might
how
gain a few pounds of fat, but it's not a lot. It's not a huge jump there you then have to recover from.
Thanks for that. We pride ourselves quite heavily in the fact that all of our athletes look the best usually a couple weeks after their show, and so I wanted to get in the best shape of my life and have a physique that I could actually keep, right? And so I mean, if you're just thinking about it logically, if you're on gear going into your show, then I mean, you're going to be off gear for the next 6 months probably, right? Man, what are you going to look like then? Like the only reason your metabolism was so good because of all the crap you were shooting your stuff up with. Okay, like you're going to have to hit eventually. You're going to have to hit reality eventually, and if you're natural, then you don't really get hit in the face like it's a ton of bricks. Like you can do a reverse diet, and because nothing's really changing with your diet or supplementation protocol overall, other than you're doing less cardio. If you were doing cardio into your show, if you do it right, then your cardio is going to be minimal. And then you slowly start reintroducing the fats and the proteins that you had to cut back on for the last couple months going into your show. But our whole goal going into a competition prep is more so to refine your digestion and to optimize your digestion to get you feeling feeling the best hormonally and performing the best hormonally. And so that the last thing that you have to do is add cardio, or worse yet, cut back on how much you're eating.
Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate that for the listener and myself who is not that interested in doing bodybuilding ourselves. As we said last time, we need to all remember we're all bodybuilders. We all need to keep this
Yeah,
stuff in mind because most of us want to burn fat. We want to have muscle. And
yeah,
and last time we talked, you told us a little bit about your personal story, which I really loved and appreciated. But let's cut to the chase of your story as it pertains to the carnivore diet. How is it that you found the carnivore diet and why did you decide to try it? And what benefits did you notice from that?
yeah. I realized real quick in my bodybuilding journey how addictive carbohydrates were and how detrimental those were to my performance. And I could never ever put them in my plan in a way that was satisfying. The the eighth show that I did, which was in 2019, that was the most competitive that I ever got before going carnivore. I was on basically a paleo hybrid diet, and so I got to the point where all my carbohydrates were coming from sweet potatoes. I respond better on sweet potatoes than basically anything else, and man, I can put away pound after pound after pound of those things. I would eat 11 or 12 pounds of them at a time. I'm not kidding. I would not even be close to throwing up. I'd be full, but still it's like I want more. Like it's like that's how much when you train, especially with the level of intensity and the frequency that I was, which was a lot of cardio and a lot of lifting. I had an appetite that was just always through the roof, man. And the carbs just added fuel to the fire for that. Like they just made me hungrier all the time. So even when I would refeed, it was almost like it wasn't worth it. But yeah, some people have an ability to do this and some people don't. I'm one of the genetically gifted few that is, but I can pack away an insane amount of carbs and I just blow up like a balloon. So I actually did that at my most recent competition. So from there, I realized just how much better I felt the less refined foods that I had in my diet, and and I think that was actually when I started listening to the Keto Savage podcast, and that was kind of my gateway drug of realizing, wow, you can do the ketogenic diet as a bodybuilder. I never thought of that before, and I was like, okay. And I looked up his book, and the tagline was something like, "Live your stay shredded all year round." I said like something like that. But basically, like the tagline hooked me. I was like, okay, so I bought that book, and then I bought his new book when he revised it. The newer one was 10 times better, and so that really told me everything that I needed to know and what to do with my contest prep. I got featured on his show, and then then had him on our channel, and so we were able to start working together, and now we have a keto brick relationship, and so we sell keto bricks through our website supersetyourlife.com. So I started off keto, but still with a lot of nuts, a lot of fiber, and a lot of like the stuff that is still not carnivore. Once I read the book, The Carnivore Diet by Sean Baker, it just made so much common sense to me, and it connected all the dots. And I started thinking about everything that I had experienced with my sugar addiction, binging and purging, my eating disorder back when I had first started bodybuilding, before I hired a coach, when I was really, really in a rough place. This helped me to see a light at the end of the tunnel and go, wow, okay, I can combine. I can. I think I can be better. I think I can be more competitive, and I think that this is going to be more sustainable and more enjoyable if I use more carnivorous approach. And so, I combined everything that I was learning from Robert's book, and I just started from there. I went to Dr. Kiltz's book, and I went to Dr. Paul Saladino's book, and I just went to basically every carnivore resource that I could get my hands on, and just started listening to carnivore podcasts like it was crazy. And yeah, so my last prep I did 4 shows in 2022, and the first 3 were all keto, and so I didn't do any carb refeeds. The last one was a non-tested show, so I'm up against guys that there's not testing for steroids or anything. All right, and so I'm like, okay, everybody's going to be a lot bigger than me, and so I filled up on sweet potatoes, actually, the first carbs that I'd had in years, really. And then I went from 183 pounds the morning the day before to 189 pounds. So I retained quite a bit of glycogen, quite a bit of water. I lost a little bit of my conditioning, but I got 5th place in classic physique, and I don't think I would have got it if I didn't load up. So I don't know. There's 3 or 4 different main refeeding approaches that I use with our clients, depending on who it is. But carbs, I don't know. I wasn't happy with how my physique looked. I like the shredded, more peeled look that I had at my previous shows. But I placed better, and it's what the judges were looking for. So you always got to factor that in.
Yeah. What other benefits besides physical benefits and aesthetic benefits did you notice when you went to a carnivore diet?
Skincare, acne that started going away. Sleep quality, libido used to always tank on my previous preps. Never went away or was a problem on these ones, because I didn't cut my fats out. Previous shows, I would leave my protein high, and I would leave I would keep my carbs as high as I could, and my fats would be, my dietary fat intake was as low as 10 to 20 grams a day, and it wasn't even animal based. It was just like trace from all the from everything else. So then my coach had me doing a high fat day with like primarily beef fat, and basically my macros throughout the week would look something like 250 250 protein, 250 carbs, and 10 20 grams fat. And then my rest days would be something more like 200 protein, 200 fat, and 0 carbs. And after a while, I just realized, wow, I feel great on these 0 carb days, and that beef tastes really, really good. And I was like, this would be a lot more sustainable, a lot more enjoyable if we just did it this way. So yeah, let's see what other benefits. Oh, grocery budget, man, meal prep, dude. Like, yeah, right now today I'm consuming. I think today I'm gonna consume 3 ingredients total: salt, venison, and beef tallow. Those are the only 3 foods that I'm eating. No seasonings, nothing else on top of that. When I eat like that, it's just like you're in a semi-fasted state all the time, because your digestion is just a piece of cake, and so it makes me more productive. I can stay up working later. I eat 1 or 2 meals a day, just and I eat when I'm hungry, which is like never. I mean, I'm never hungry for breakfast. When like I don't even think about eating any food until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And if I worked out particularly hard, then okay, maybe that's a 2 meal day, and or a 2 meal day. And so I'll have a small meal and then a bigger meal right before I go to bed. But most days anymore, it's just I don't know. I get busy enough and productive enough with my work, and then I'm not even hungry until the evening time, and I'll have my one and only meal, which is a bunch of meat and a bunch of fat.
That sounds great. And I understand the level that you would need to be, as far as like precision when it comes to contests and things like that. You really have to be
Yep.
tracking these. You've got to be measuring things. That just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
For most of us that we don't do that, do we need to really be concerned about things like fat to protein ratios? Do we need to be tracking the amount of protein and fat that we're getting? Or is it more that we could just kind of trust our taste and what sounds good as long as we're staying within the boundaries of carnivore?
Oh yeah, for sure. Excellent question. So as long as you're eating the right foods, everything else falls into place, unless you have a real specific aesthetic goal or a real specific performance goal, which I do, which to your point is why I track everything so meticulously and why I'm such a fan of just the less ingredients, the better, because like, especially my athletes and the people that I don't see in person every day, like Danielle, she's a pro bodybuilder on the East Coast, and so she emails me her progress pictures like every single day, pretty much, and I'm like, okay, if I want to change something in her diet, I know that she's only eating 5 ingredients. She's on the lion diet with me too right now, actually. So, so making modifications to my plans and to other people's plans, that helps simplify things and make things actually accurate in terms of what we're tracking. But if you're consuming 20 or 30 ingredients by the end of the day, man, there's so much margin for error and food labels and how you're cooking everything and what fiber actually does in your gut. I mean, all that stuff, right? It gets really complicated. For the average person, to answer your question, no, not necessary whatsoever. If you're eating a diet consisting primarily of red meat from ruminant animals and I like how Dr. Kilt says it, which is the baby's diet, right? Beef, eggs, butter, bacon, ice cream on occasion. That's his fun way of saying you got to have a treat every now and then. I can get behind that. And then salt. I mean, if that's the foundation of your diet, then you really can't go wrong with it. And so then you can truly so then if more meat sounds good, great. You should probably eat. That's your body's way of telling you you need more. Okay, but if more meat doesn't sound good, but pizza does sound good, or a candy bar does sound good, yeah, those things always sound good because they're addictive and they're hyper palatable. So you never really know for sure unless meat sounds good. Same thing with water. If you're thirsty, just drink until your pee is semi clear, but not 100, but not like super clear, so that you're overhydrated and you're flushing out your electrolytes. Same thing with salt too. You can trust your satiety signals if you're eating the right foods, but if you're eating cereal and if you're eating no, forget it.